It's the sniffling season and allergies are at their strongest. The recent warm weather has seen hay fever and allergy sufferers flocking to the chemist for relief. But according to experts, abusing over-the-counter nasal sprays can make congestion worse.
The problem with these drugs is that if you use them continually for more than 10 days, you get a problem called tachyphylaxis. Now, tachyphylaxis is the body getting used to the drug, and when you stop the drug, you get a rebound phenomena. So the blockage after you stop the drug is worse than before you started the drug.
Doctors say antihistamines are useful for mild symptoms such as sneezing, itching and eye watering, but could do little to relieve a blocked nose. Of biggest concern is people who are overdosing on nasal sprays, becoming addicted and using up to 3 sprays in 1 week.
So the recommendations are they're useful in the short term. So you can use them 2 or 3 times a day for less than a week, but to continue using them you run into the problem of rebound.
Amanda Bolger, NBN News. It's a tragedy which should never have happened. A 9-year-old girl playing in this park at Jesmond was dragged into bushland and raped by this man, Roy de la Torre. Incredibly, he was allowed to roam the community, even though he'd indecently assaulted several young girls at Bathurst while on parole for raping another child in Dubbo 6 years ago. Although he was initially refused bail, a local court magistrate in Newcastle set him free in April this year. 3 months later, de la Torre learned his parole had been revoked and a warrant for his arrest issued. A police statement to the court today said de la Torre called Mayfield Police on July 10th and told them he was going to hand himself in, but had to attend to some business before he did so. It appears that business was to roam Jesmond Park and rape a 9-year-old girl. De la Torre then handed himself into police for the breach of his parole, believing he would never be linked to the Jesmond attack. The parents of the young victim were in court today to hear Roy de la Torre plead guilty to kidnap and rape. They believe the justice system has not only let them down, but also the entire community, because de la Torre could quite easily have attacked any number of children playing innocently in the park. De la Torre will be sentenced in Newcastle District Court at a date yet to be set. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
There are about 3,000 people who live close to the Williamtown RAF base, putting up with the noise of our Top Guns at work. Port Stephens Council has joined with state and federal government groups plus the RAF to see how to address the noise problem. The report basically says little can be done to help present residents. Council says it has no funds available to help pay for homes to be made noise-proof. The main aim is to minimise future problems by toughening planning controls for residential zoning. The report concludes more study is needed. It's clear the RAF base is important to the local economy. It's estimated it generates $100 million each year. The Breakers' clash with Northern New South Wales last week was a cakewalk, with Newcastle cruising into a 7-1 victory. Tonight's Johnny Walker clash at Breakers Stadium should be another easy one for the Breakers, but coach John Cosmina has decided not to risk striker Clayton Zane. He's off on the weekend for South America with the young Socceroos.
I just can't see the point in risking him. He's away on Saturday, so he can go away and get his fitness while he's overseas. He'll have enough games, enough training with Les Scheinflug in Argentina.
Amongst the inner city hustle and bustle is a little piece of paradise, but nearly 7 years ago the Newcastle earthquake gave the region a terrifying shake. Add to that the repair work to fix the Paynes' home, and their garden was destroyed.
It was submerged in rubble from the demolished parts of the house.
7 years on, and with a complete rebuild, the Paynes Garden was selected with another Newcastle yard as an inner city garden in the Australian Open Garden Scheme. 700 gardens have been chosen around Australia as something special. Jean says she just works on trial and error, and she basically just potters around the yard for fun.
I just potter. It's sort of hodgepodge potter. My friend calls it an Irish stew.
The Paynes Garden in Dawson Street in Cooks Hill is open to the public this weekend. Just watching players of this calibre, it's easy to see how teenagers make it to the professional circuit.
These are the best under-12 primary school tennis players in Australia, and we're privileged to see some of the great shot making they're doing here today.
The talent in Newcastle is staggering. 11 and 12-year-olds trading blow for blow in aggressive rallies lasting longer than 50 shots. Victoria and New South Wales today were fighting out a grudge match, the top two ranked states in Australia. But it's Queensland leading the way, undefeated after 4 days of competition. 108 players are competing for the Bruce Cup, a teams event involving singles, doubles and, for the first time, mixed doubles. The Cup has been in existence for nearly 60 years, boasting an honour roll which includes the names Rosewall, Stolly and Philippoussis, and possibly in the future, one of these players.
It's a bit tough on the kids to put names to them at this stage, and I'm sure that when we go back through the records of this year, we'll see the likes of Mark Philippoussis rising from the Bruce Cup.
The national championships end tomorrow with a fitting finale. Defending champs New South Wales up against 1996 heavyweights Queensland. Robert Ovadia, NBN News.
From this humble workshop in Ourimbah near Gosford, Graham Harkin and his team produce glassware for some of the best hotels in the world. Despite working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, they can't keep up with demand. The appeal of the handcrafted glassware is spreading.
I think it's the play of light and the fact that we use a lot of texture in the glass.
It's a long way from the backyard operation he began 5 years ago. With the help of 2 powerful kilns, the former engineer churns out more than 200 pieces a week.
But I knew from the start that I touched on something that hadn't been done before.
Turnover has grown from $10,000 a year to $250,000. His secret, special moulds which enable him to produce handcrafted pieces at reasonable prices. He's cracked the lucrative Asian market, recently securing orders from major hotels in Singapore. And while he says he'll have to expand, he wants to make sure he can keep doing those one-off requests that got him started. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
The second most common site for childhood injury, playgrounds have long been the centre of controversy. Gosford Council has introduced a procedure which it believes will help make parks safer for children. All 330 playgrounds in the area are now undergoing regular inspections, some daily, in an effort to keep equipment in safe condition. Specially trained council staff check every nut and bolt and test equipment to ensure it complies with current regulations. Gosford Council has recorded only 6 injuries in its playgrounds over the last 6 years, and although none went to court, it's aware of the potential for liability claims.
We've got a duty of care to the public because we invite them onto our land to protect them and keep them safe.
The council hopes others will soon adopt its award-winning system. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Stephen Kennedy died in a house at Tyes Hill last September, trying to protect his girlfriend Sharon Davis from being raped by 28-year-old Moses Tu. Tu had been drinking heavily, and when Kennedy intervened, he was stabbed in the heart. Judge Badgery Parker found the murder was savage and brutal, and in sentencing Tu to 13 years and 6 months jail, he took into account that it was committed while Tu was on bail and on a good behaviour bond for previous assaults both in Australia and New Zealand. Outside the court, Stephen Kennedy's mother welcomed the decision.
He took a life. That's the way I look at it. He took my son's life. I'll never have my son back again, ever. At least he'll have some life.
Moses Tu's earliest release date from jail will be March 2009. He'll be 41 years old. For his fiancée Louise Snedden, that's a long wait, but one she's willing to make.
It's been very hard, but I love him and I know that he's innocent.
Moses Tu has always claimed he was innocent of murder, and today, even before the sentence was handed down, he told Judge Badgery Parker that he would be appealing. While in jail, Tu will undergo alcohol counselling. The court found he knew he became violent when he drank, but did nothing to rehabilitate himself and in fact continued drinking. At the time of the murder, he consumed 24 stubbies of beer and 2 bottles of spirits a day.
Undercover detectives came to the back door of the house around 9 o'clock this morning to execute a search warrant as part of an undercover drug operation. Police say they were confronted by a man standing in the hallway with a shotgun. Shots were exchanged. The armed man was shot in the chest. Detectives were not injured.
But it does appear to be a drug operation, drug-related operation, which always unpredictable at the best of times, and as a result of that, this one has ended in a shooting.
But the police account seems at odds with eyewitnesses who saw a scuffle outside. Witnesses from across the road said they saw a struggle and then heard gunshots.
And he was tackling the
detective, I think,
and then I noticed another chap started to back near the tin fence over there, and I did hear gunshots too.
There was just rapid gunfire, and the police were raiding the place with a drug bust.
The wounded man was treated at the scene and rushed to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital. He died soon after arrival. The dead man's female partner and a second man involved in the incident are helping police with their inquiries. Police say the warrant had been executed to search the premises for marijuana. Blake Doyle, NBN News. It's looking more and more like the battle of the festivals. Last night, Newcastle's bicentennial launch party was crashed by Mataura organisers. They're upset over the money being spent on the bicentenary and the $37,000 spent on last night's event.
A gross waste of ratepayers' money. I just think what a festival, a community festival, could do with $37,000. And, we'd have loved to have been able to have that expense.
Around 500 people turned out for the launch. The Bicentenary Events Corporation says it's pleased with the numbers and has had good feedback from the event. Meanwhile, the Matara Committee has announced its program of events. This year's Matara will have the traditional parade and hill climb. An international craft expo is also on the bill. This will be Matara's 35th festival. Organisers say they're battling on despite having their budget cut.
It will survive, it will grow bigger and better, and I'm sure that the people of this city have proven that they want Matara, they want it in all its forms, they want to participate, it's their festival.
After a brilliant footballing career, Mark Sargent has decided to tackle another role, today adding the final touches to his newest venture, a restaurant in Dudley.
We just thought it'd be a good idea to sort of have a place where you could go and have a meal or a cup of coffee and stick the kids in the corner and let them rip.
Together with wife Helen, the Sargents will open Georgie Lou's on Tuesday. Mark's big hits and explosive runs taking a back seat to the latest offerings, Charlie Chips, Billy Burgers and Mickey Macaroni. The memory of that sweaty night's change room fading thanks to new colourful walls with flying pink elephants.
The artist has done a pretty good job of it, a lot better than I could have done. There'd be stick men up there if I did it.
Mark says he's the silent partner, or is he?
Well, Helen tells me she's got a clown on next week, so she might have a job for me there.
Georgie Lou's has been named after the Sargent's first daughter, and with Courtney Beverley, the latest addition to the family, they haven't ruled out a chain in Courtney Bevs.
You never know. It'd be nice to you. That doesn't rhyme though as well as Georgie Lou's though, does it?
Ruta Taru has had a severe limp since he was 5 years old. An infection left him with a twist in his spine and a deformed leg. The 14-year-old arrived at Newcastle's Lingard Hospital with his father today. They'd been invited to Australia by orthopaedic surgeon Dr. Trevor Best.
Type of operation was just too technical to be done over there. They don't have the facilities.
Dr. Best sometimes works in the Cook Islands with an Australian College of Surgeons medical team. Their shy young patient is grateful for the help.
Sometimes I feel the pain.
It's been a real community effort to provide the treatment. The Variety Club paid for the airfares, the hospital is providing its facilities, and the surgeon is giving his time for free. Ruta's father will stay in a Salvation Army flat. The operation will go ahead on Monday, with the patient remaining in traction for up to 4 weeks.
He'll be able to walk better. He won't have a normal hip joint by a long shot, but it'll be a much better hip joint for him to be able to walk in an upright position rather than bent as he is now.
follows the widest runner into the straight. It's Clever Nugent in front. Stylish Road can't get out. Right down the outside, Payson's Alba's coming well with Qatari Force. Robbie's Trick in the centre. The Bolters running a big race. They hit it. Oh, close.
It was actually Qatari Force who got the photo. It paid $4.70 and $1.50. Big dividends for Robbie's Trick, $12.10. Clever Nugent was the favourite, paying $1.20. The Quinella, $220.40. And the Trifecta, almost $1,600. Racing at Muswellbrook today, the Class 2 handicap over 1,500 metres was the feature event. $5 and $2.50, $2.20 and no third dividend for Classy Lad. The Quinella $7.90 and the Trifecta $163 even.
City hoteliers are on notice that drunken sprees around their premises won't be tolerated. The Cambridge Hotel is taking the warning seriously, closing its doors this afternoon instead of preparing for an influx of revellers. Strict new laws on drinking come into force next month, but already the City Council, police and pubs are responding to the regulations.
With the new licensing laws and the intoxication people's laws, I am responsible for anyone inside the hotel or outside the hotel who is intoxicated. So if there is going to be a pub crawl starting here at 6:30, I could cop maybe $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 worth of fines.
Billed as a fundraiser, tonight's cancelled show at the Cambridge had been taken over as a substitute for the cancelled pub crawl, the likes of which see thousands of young, mainly student drinkers drawn to Hunter Street. The new regulations put other events such as Merryweather's Santa pub crawl under a cloud.
I don't blame the police for this. I blame Mr Alan Morris, our federal member in Parliament, for allowing laws like this to get passed, which are stopping community groups coming together and rejoicing in the streets.
As one of a series of meetings held throughout the Central Coast and the Hunter, a gathering in Newcastle last night attracted around 70 people. The Hunter Valley Alliance of Firearm Owners claims the fight of gun owners against firearms legislation is not yet lost.
John Howard and the Police Ministers of Australia got it wrong.
The Alliance believes gun laws were framed in an atmosphere of hysteria and ignorance after the Port Arthur massacre, and that the state and federal governments need to correct and clarify the legislation. Another meeting will be held on the 3rd of October at Cessnock, scene of rural Australia's largest pro-gun demonstration earlier this year.
We are not going to bury our guns. We are going to bury every politician that refuses to listen to the responsible firearm owners of Australia and amend these stupid laws.
In a move to keep ahead of the increasing road usage in its area, the Port Stephens Council has prepared a road safety strategic plan. It identifies the well-known causes of serious crashes such as alcohol, inappropriate speed and fatigue, and draws on RTA figures to put a cost on them.
There's a really big impact of the road crash beyond the actual crash.
Calculated on emergency, medical and legal expenses along with predicted loss of income and social welfare costs, the report claims a road death costs more than $860,000, a towaway crash at least $11,000.
If you think about the person who's actually killed, it's the loss of income, it may be the support that they give their family, if it's not someone who's killed but seriously injured, it's all the medical costs, that's ongoing.
The figures are used in strategic planning and road funding priorities. Costs from crashes in Port Stephens over just 1 year amounted to $18 million. The figure could be more than 10 times that for Newcastle and the Central Coast combined. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Miserable conditions in Newcastle for grand final day, and in the opening match Uni and Novos were locked at 1-1 for most of the second half. With only 4 minutes left, Novos' Amanda Payne almost broke the deadlock, but the match was forced into extra time. 7.5 minutes each way, the match sudden death, Novos the first with a chance, presented with consecutive short corners. At the end of the term, a weight of possession for Uni, and while they found the net, the goal was disallowed. Continuing the seesaw battle, Novos 2 looked set to clinch it, but the clock beat them all and the teams were declared joint premiers. Another physical match in the men's decider, and with only 3 minutes gone, Paul Kirkwood put the underdogs on top. Plenty of other chances throughout the remainder of the match, but the rain proved to be the leveller. 1-0 at half-time, and neither side bothered the scorers in the second term. North surprise 1-0 winners. In women's softball, a disappointing doubleheader for the Castle Lakers. They lost both matches in today's State League in Sydney. And wet weather has forced the postponement of tonight's season opener of the Newcastle International Motordrome. It's been put back to next weekend.
To an outsider, they can look like giants on miniature bikes. But one has to make a few allowances in a sport where a veteran can still be a few years shy of his 21st birthday.
I've been racing since I was 6-year-old. I've been all around Australia. I quit for 4 years for a while, then I come back and that's where I am now.
Today they're only racing against each other at Argenton, but this weekend they'll be vying for state titles at Liverpool and Sydney Southwest. 18-year-old Jason Cruikshank from Maitland is ranked number 1 in his division. The former Australian champion making a serious comeback after a few quiet years.
Lots of training and hard work and all that sort of stuff.
He'll be up against Lake Macquarie's Matthew Moore, who's ranked 3rd in the state. They'll lead a strong hunter contingent that includes 31 riders from the Lake Macquarie club alone, with races ranging from under 8s to over 40s. Competitors say it's the start of a BMX renaissance.
At the moment it's really growing it's fast, because mountain bikes were big at one stage and BMX are coming back in, big vamp of BMX,
Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
Jeff McCloy has been working on the deal for 11 months. He has spent $600,000 on planning for the office block. It goes before Newcastle Council tonight for development approval, but one councillor says she needs more time to think.
But this is a really important site, and
while we want development and I support development and I'm anxious to see jobs created, the development has got to be right.
Greens councillor Margaret Henry says the existing building on the development site between Hunter and Derby Streets in the CBD has heritage significance. She says a wind survey needs to be done, plus more traffic studies. The developer is seeing red.
It typifies the lack of progress in the city. It effectively means the Telstra deal will fall over. It effectively means that people will be unemployed. It's not going to create jobs.
100 construction jobs are under threat. Jeff McCloy says he has worked with council officers to get to this stage. If Councillor Henry succeeds in knocking back the deal, Mr McCloy says he'll not work in the area again.
There's no way in the wide world we would reinvest or attempt to reinvest after this frustration level in this city.